Yeah, so I'm happy that you got to meet Jack Carr. It seems like from what you're saying, it seems like he was a very stand up, awesome, just human being. But I hate you.
It's fair. It's fair. It's funny when people are like, "Aren't you going to multi-gun nationals?" And I'm like, "No, I might be doing something that's a lot cooler than that." And like, I mean, wouldn't you go do that instead of multi-gun nationals? Like, probably.
I would have told him. I would have told him to meet me at Multi-Gun Nationals, and I would have made him shoot the match. But in the middle of working, so like I gotta focus just for a bit before I can have the fun. I gotta have do the work. Work leads to the fun.
Fair. Fair.
That being said, that's how the episode's gonna start right there. So cool. Well, anyway. As you can tell, we've got another episode of Open Action with me, John McClain, brought to you by Armscor Precision. And on this episode, we have a guest whose podcast I was recently on not too long ago. This young lady she's got her podcast, which is called Reticle Up. She is a published writer in multiple outdoor publications, online publications, just all over the place. She was even on a little TV show called Build Box, and that person is Kenzie Fitzpatrick. My God.
What's up, John?
Hello. I can say your name, I swear. Kenzie Fitzpatrick, see?
Yeah. You got it.
So, Kenzie, for those of you that don't know who you are, why don't you do a brief little introduction? Obviously we don't have to go over like every match you've ever won or anything like that, but just who is
Sure.
Kenzie as a person?
Sure, yep. So I now am like this 3-gun Kenzie, so branded out in the wild. It was so weird. I got an email back the other day where I was talking to someone, they're like, 3-gun Kenzie was the first response, and then he went into his email. So I guess that's me. I'm a competitive shooter, and yeah, John already covered some of the writing stuff. Writer in the firearms industry, which I love. I hate the word influencer, but I think that's kind of where things are going with an influencer marketer, I guess, in the industry. But I own a marketing firm, called Reticle Up. So I work with a lovely brands in the 2A space, which is just a dream come true. Travel all across the country, shooting matches from 3-gun, PRS, Steel Challenge, you name it. I like to pull a trigger. AK matches now are a lot of fun. So I'm all over the country and just having a blast. And John, I don't even know what I do half the time or what I'm going to be doing next. If you tell me what I'll be doing in a couple years, I will have no idea. So I'm just along for the journey.
Which has turned out to be a pretty cool experience for you, because like one day you were just kind of like this girl that does a lot of writing and gets to travel around. The next day, I see you posting pictures next to Jack Carr, who totally made me jealous, because like as soon as I got the terminal list, I hate reading. I can't sit down and read books. I just fall asleep, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, if a story's good, I can kind of appreciate it. But the act of reading just makes me tired. Even if I'm in the story, I'm just like, So I always listen to everything on Audible.
Yeah.
But yeah, terminal list, I got it. Me and Kelly's dad were listening to it on the way down to Branson one time, and like, I was hooked so much that I listened to it every morning when I would go to the gym and work out, and then on the way back, I had to rewind the story so that Kelly's dad could listen to it because he wanted to hear it. And then, like, every road trip we go on now, that's like Jack Carr is so we're still on the second book. We haven't been on a road trip in a while, but so we're stuck like a third of the way into the second book that I have to wait. But I've listened to them all already.
Yeah.
And you started posting pictures of getting to hang out with him and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. So I mean, it's kind of cool, right? Like you don't know where you're gonna end up, and sometimes you end up in pretty cool. I mean, granted, sometimes you end up in pretty shitty places too, but
like
that's just
taking a grasshopper to the eye and going to the eye doctor, and yeah, that was dumb.
If only you were wearing your Hunter's HD Gold.
It's so funny because it was 9:00 at night, sun was going down, we were going to clear cows. I'm like, I don't need hearing protection, I don't need eye pro, we're not shooting yet. So now I have learned I need to sleep with my iPro on. So I'm going to start doing memes of just me always with iPro on while I'm asleep in bed. But yeah, no, like the Jack Carr thing was something that was so crazy out of left field that I was told that it was going to happen, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to get my hopes up, because kind of like you, like, huge fangirl, was really excited, especially because he's a Navy SEAL and everything. And so I was like, I'm not gonna believe it. I'm not gonna believe it. I don't want to post about it. I don't want to jinx it. Like, I have to have it happen. And when it happened, he couldn't have been more humble, more nice, more friendly. So like, if you ever get the opportunity, which I'm sure you will, to meet him, like SHOT Show or NRA or anything that he's kind of at, he's so nice to talk to. So it was one of those moments too where I've had the moments in the industry of meeting someone that I've looked up to and it kind of being a less than happy, experience. This was probably the best I've ever had of meeting a hero too, to me, because I do read. I've read every book start to finish. I even had the shot and signed edition of his new book, and he's like, wait, you bought one? I was like, yeah, before it came out I pre-ordered it. Like, I'm a fan. But I was trying not to fangirl too hard, but I was like, no, like, this is my favorite book series. So yeah, it was cool.
Well, it's because it's such a refreshing book series. Like, you've got all these stories coming out where every story has to have some sort of political agenda that meets some sort of woke mob mentality bullshit. It's like, oh, well, we got to make a character gay, or we got to make it, and it's like it. Those people exist. I get it, but like to force it down people's throats is, I know they exist. I acknowledge their existence, so it's just the story is just so fresh because it's about a story, not about a political agenda.
Yes. Like, did you ever watch Jack Reacher, the newer series Reacher? Yeah. Okay, because like they had the subsonic ammo and all this stuff in it that was like not correct. And then if you've ever read the book series about, I think it was the third or fourth book, it was early on, it was like, I flipped the safety off my Glock and I'm like, oh, it doesn't exist. Like, it takes you out of the book. And so when I read Jack Carr's books, everything is, I mean, he researches it too. It's like, it's to a T, factual, correct. Oh, it's like the most pleasing gun novels for us because we can relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, I mean, granted, there is still some things that will happen, but I don't think he does it in a way of out of ignorance or anything. I think he might do it for the cool factor sometimes of what can be. But either way, the book series is great. Listen, if anyone if you've never listened to, I mean, let's be honest, if you've been living under a rock in the last like year and a half, I mean, between Amazon coming out with the Terminal List, starring Chris Pratt, like, it's funny too. You notice how like these right now, a lot of the movies and stuff like that's coming out, they kind of go through these cycles with like 3 or 4 different individuals. Mm-hmm. So, for example, right, there was a point where everything coming out had Ryan Reynolds in it. Yeah. Right? Like, it was like this movie came out, and then this show came out, and then this movie came out in accordance with this show, and then Deadpool, and everything was Ryan Reynolds. And then recently, it feels like it switched to Chris Pratt. Like, I can't wait for there to be a movie starring Ryan Reynolds and Chris Pratt together, because I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Like Deadpool meets James Reese. That would be awesome, right? But yeah, like Chris Pratt, if you watched the show, I think it was good. I was actually very, very surprised with the show and how well they kind of kept to the book. Obviously, I knew there were differences from certain aspects of it, and then certain aspects of it was Hollywoodized. Yeah. Like, yep. I mean, in the book, it's very apparent who the bad guy is, like within the first 3 chapters. But in the show, they drag it on until you get to the very end, stuff like that. But I get why they did it. And the funniest thing, and this is the thing, if I get a chance to ever sit down and talk with Jack Carr, the funniest thing is I would be like, hey, Jack, what is it like when you write a story and you're like, let's write a story about Hillary Clinton, but not name her Hillary Clinton? I mean, as soon as he started describing everything that what's her face in the book was going through, I was just like, wow, Hillary, Jack Carr's going to suicide himself. That's how it's going to be, right? Like, Hillary's going to get her henchmen to show up at his doorstep or something for writing a terrible story about a philandering husband. And I mean, it was so to the T, it made me giggle. Which is why I can even have a little bit more appreciation for it. But so I'm happy that you got to meet Jack Carr. He seems like from what you're saying, it seems like he was a very stand-up, awesome, just human being. But I hate you.
It's fair. It's funny when people are like, aren't you going to Multi-Gun Nationals? And I'm like, no, I might be doing something that's a lot cooler than that. And like, I mean, wouldn't you go do that instead of multi-gun nationals? Like, probably.
I would have told him to meet me at Multi-Gun Nationals, and I would have made him shoot the match. But that's.
It was cool when we got there to the range too, because that is his FFL, like the range that we filmed at, and so I got to actually see a custom BCM rifle that I had gotten there for him with his tomahawks engraved and everything. So I got to see a lot of his personal guns there. That was really neat. A little behind the scenes life. Look, your face is like not fair.
Well, I'm not gonna say fair. I mean, you've obviously been working your ass off, so I don't see. It's not like you were just like waiting at the airport and he just happened to pop up and trip over your bag, right? Like that would be not fair. Working your ass off to get somewhere is another thing entirely. But now, before you got into the writing aspect of what you do now, and obviously I think the travel is also associated, because like a lot of times you write about what you're traveling for, whether or not it's an event or it's a product review or something like that, or you want to have some sort of interaction about a company, not just like, hey, yeah, I got this scope and it's awesome, but rather the company and whatnot. What did you do prior to all this madness?
Yeah, before I kind of took a bet on myself, I was working at Florida State University. My background is actually in marketing, I have a master's degree in marketing. But I was working at the university for the College now of Entrepreneurship at FSU. And that was kind of, I would say, hand in hand with where I'm at, because when I graduated with my master's degree, 3 weeks later, I started my marketing firm. So it's been around for a long time, but I really didn't know what I was doing. Like, opened up the firm, started kind of freelancing. I did marketing for a shooting range back in Tallahassee for 7 years, actually. They were my client. First one to sign with me. Oh, I was so green. But it was cool because it was something I could do part-time, schedule the social media posts, do some emails, what have you. And then it wasn't until 2018 where I really wanted to pursue this dream. I hadn't had the writing experience down yet. Like, I really wasn't anybody, right? And it was something where I was like coming up, made a plan of, I want to shoot 3-gun. I want to go out and do some more competitive shooting sports and do more marketing. And so I quit my job. Greatest thing I've ever done, scariest thing I've ever done. And then just kind of took my business full time. And all of that came from me showing up and ROing. So if people don't know, like listening to this podcast, you can afford to shoot. It's you have to give your time to afford to shoot. So as a range officer, I probably worked 100 matches at least, getting started. And it was because they paid for travel. They paid for the hotel, your food, your match fee. So really it was ammo and have the guns and get yourself there. And so that kind of paid off in the longer run, John, because I met people, at the time, STI, now Staccato. I met Brian with Hunter's HG Gold through shooting, just from working matches and showing up. And so all of those connections, going to SHOT Show and NRA, just sort of started paying off later. Like, I've never seen relationships like that where it's like, what can you offer me? Or why do I need to be friends with you now? Right? Like, it just accidentally happens when people connect, and I'm super grateful. So it all spiraled from me just kind of working matches and showing up.
And take this key point away. Don't just quit your job. You got to have something in place.
And I worked in the background. Yeah. I mean, I worked the part-time to make it, a full-time job, to be able to do that. And it was enough where with the power of the internet, you can do anything. If you have an iPhone, anyone on the country with an iPhone, with an internet connection, can freelance, write, do photos, make a business happen. Like, there's just no excuse these days to not be able to do stuff,
Although you do get very, very limited on what you can show now that all the censorship bullshit things are taking. I know Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan and said shadow banning is not a real thing.
Lies.
You're full of shit, Zuck.
Yeah, lies.
Okay? Yeah,
all lies.
Exactly. And it's funny because I almost test the algorithms every now and then just to see how much I can screw myself lately. Because like I just did a post on my YouTube channel, just made a little short, and historically those, like if they're decent or whatever, can get up to like 2,000 to 2,500 views, because that's how many subscribers I have. So that's what I'm limited to, right? They won't share my product or my stuff with anything else. But I did a post about Joe Biden yesterday where I talked about how, like, when you put your 2-week notice in and you're about to like either lose your job or leave your job, how you just stop caring, and like it doesn't matter if you're pissing everybody off. You're like, whatever, peace out, I'm out anyway, go, And I'm like, that's kind of what feels like Joe Biden's doing right now. Like, he's just kind of like, what do I care? I'm not gonna be a president again, so
Yeah,
hate me all
really
you
bad.
want, kind of thing. Yeah, in like 24 hours, it's gotten like 16 views. But it's
Russian's
like,
real. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it is absolutely real. I'll post things, and it's sucks because it's like my profile gets shut down almost, because even if I post something comical that's not gun related, or like I've been posting things like the kitties that we got recently and all that kind of stuff. No, it's still so muted, and it's like, how you're muting cat videos.
And
That's like what Instagram is built for.
And cute turkey calls. Like, what is that hurting rubbing two little pieces of wood together? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly, right? So
That's real.
It's been interesting, and it's been a little frustrating to see that happening more and more.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like lately the politicians, the big tech and all that kind of stuff, it's like they're just becoming so much more blatantly open and obvious about it, because again, it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do about it?
Yep.
Are you going to go to another media platform? Because what we'll do is we'll just wait for them to get big enough, and then we'll buy them out, and then we'll mute you again. You know, it's like,
yep.
a little frustrating with that.
I am playing with X, aka Twitter, because I just think this new name of X is really dumb. But I used to be on Twitter like way back in the day, loved it, had a huge following, it ended up deleting it, so now I'm back to ground zero. But it's like an interesting level to start with. I don't think it's there yet. I don't think there's a huge platform, but it is like an alternative. And if you pay for like one of the accounts, you can upload your entire podcasts, full-length videos. I know like Theo Ovon was talking about that, the comedian, about uploading onto X and stuff, but none of that censorship is there.
Yeah, no, none of that. Because I was just talking to Brian from Hunters HD Gold about Rumble, because that's what he's been transitioning a lot of his video content and stuff to. So I've had an account with Rumble for a bit, but like I didn't quite understand how it works. But the biggest thing that I found too is that people's attention spans have been reduced so much because of like TikTok and Reels and Shorts and all that kind of stuff, that like it's even if you get interactions. It's so easy for people just to double tap and swipe. So they like your video and they move on, but they don't subscribe. They don't, so they can't get your content coming through their channel regularly. And that's kind of where I'm at with like Twitter. Like, yeah, I hate it. I never understood Twitter. I'll be perfectly honest. I thought Twitter was the dumbest thing in the world. Like, I have 140 characters to try and say something. And like, I would try and type something up, and I'd just be like, well, okay, I'm out of space, and I can't even finish my full thought. This is dumb, right? And so yeah, I never used Twitter. It was always Instagram or Facebook for me. But now that decision is biting me in the ass, because the majority of my followers are all on Instagram. Facebook too. But that's, again, how much are they actually seeing? Because like, you can post things, and then next thing you know, it's like, I posted it, I only got 6 likes.
Yep.
Like, what the hell's going on? But no one else saw the post or whatever. So, yeah, no, X is interesting. I woke up. It was funny because I woke up and looked at my phone, and all my social media stuff is in one folder. So I clicked on the social media thing, and when it was in the small little view, it still had the Twitter icon. But when I clicked on it, then the big X showed up, and I was like, did Apple delete my app or something? And I hit it, and then it was completely different. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I backed out, and no, it says Twitter. Now it's X. And then I finally did some research. I was like, oh, he changed the name. Okay, I wasn't expecting that at all. So now there's another app that I've been trying to get into, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you ever heard about it. It's Go Wild, which is an outdoorsman app. So it's like Facebook. You create an account, you share posts, you can share videos, pictures, and all that kind of stuff. But they also have they don't censor. If you've got a shot of or a video of you killing a deer while you're out hunting, like, you can show that, and it's not like this, oh my gosh, trigger warning, right? Like, right. It's meant for outdoorsmen. But you can tell people whenever you like catch a fish, and how much did the fish weigh, and what was the length of it, and where did you catch it, and what bait were you using, and it's like this really cool outdoorsman app. So like when you make a post, you can actually like even share gear that you're using. So whenever I do a video of me out shooting or hunting, like in that post, I can literally go through and tag every piece of equipment that I'm using, and it'll show up on that post as well. So,
that's cool.
If you never tried it, Go Wild is the app, and I mean it's still in the young phase, but I feel like that's the heart. the difficult thing is there's so many other apps out there, because like when Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter were just being completely and utterly controlled with an iron fist, it was like 800 people went out and created their own app that was for freedom-loving people, instead of like, 3 people coming out and being like, look, let's just congregate and focus all of our energy on these 3. It's like everyone had to go to like, oh, Truth Social, and then this, that, and the other, and it's just like I'm not downloading 16 different apps now just so I can try and talk to 20 people that are going to start following me, because everyone else still mostly uses Facebook and Instagram just for the ease of
and people don't understand where I've come from explaining this. Is like, okay, if say we all go into a different app that is Truth Social, what have you, and we're really just marketing and posting to the people that are 2A friendly or gun friendly, like we do need to have people that aren't even aware about firearms. Maybe they're interested, might not even be aware about hunting or fishing, right? So if we're all having the same conversation, the same beliefs in one spot, but we're not bringing anyone else to the table, or like we're not reaching the audiences that we need to be. Does that make sense? Like, we need to be informed. Yeah. So like that's the hard part for me to get across to people, is like we don't need to be siloed. We just have to find a place that we can all, I guess, market to or speak to or what have you.
Well, and I think social media also created a bigger divide amongst people for the ability to block.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like, when you're sitting around your dinner table on Christmas and you've got Aunt Edna over there who still, thinks that those silly Asians brought the bat flu over, and then you've got, Uncle Teddy over here who thinks that Joe Biden is doing absolutely fine and all that kind of stuff, and we're all at the dinner table, you have to interact, or someone's going to get punched in the face, or, like, it's just the way it is. Like, but you can have arguments, you can have debates and all that kind of stuff. Well, when you are able to block someone, then the only thing that floods your feed is all the people that are like-minded as you, which means that you think that the rest of the world thinks like you.
Yep.
But the problem is you've blocked the other half. So you can't have a conversation. It just turns into like, no, absolutely, we're completely and utterly right. No, seriously, the rest of the world thinks that I'm right. But the other half has blocked you as well, and their group thinks that, no, absolutely, we all think that we're right. And then when we have that interaction together, it's like, well, how could you be so stupid? Well, how could you be so stupid? It's like, well, we're all pretty stupid right now.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, I also think, haven't been punched in the mouth recently, and you can tell. Right, like, or they've gotten the participation trophies,
just for being alive or being, into the space. Like it's pretty bad, the participation trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some interactions with some people sometimes, and it's just like, God, like 3 million sperm, and you were the one that won.
Made it. It's bad.
That's so.
That
impressive.
Could be a whole podcast episode about people, because lately I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. And I've tried to do it too. Like every now and then I fall victim to it. Every now and then I'll get into an argument with someone online, and then like 3 posts in, I like stop what I'm doing, and I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why am I wasting my time? And why am I letting this adrenaline pumping fill? Like I don't feel good about this right now. Like, and this person clearly just wants to try and hype me up. So then I stop interacting. But typically I post and ghost. I don't care what people say. If someone's got a question, I'll answer it. But other than that, comments, I just normally just kind of like and move on or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just sometimes people will just say things, and you're just like, I've had people make comments, and I've done some research, looked at their profile, whatever, and been like, hey, you know what? And every now and then I'll comment just to be a smartass. Some of the comments, or one of my favorite ones to say is, your opinion to me is a lot like your profile. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you've got 6 people that follow you, and 5 of them are porn bots. So,
and I've said this on another podcast, is like, if you get criticized, if you get a negative comment, if you get something on your post, it's always, and this is 100% true, it's always going to come from someone doing less than you, not actually out there making posts themselves, not in the public eye, not creating content. So you just, you got to let it roll off your shoulder and move on, because you will never, ever get anything criticized unless it's like constructive, right, and positive, or something in private from someone doing more than you. Then those are the people you want to associate with, not the rest. Because I've gotten the same. It's just been like, okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, no, and that's the mindset I try and keep. It's like, dude, you've sure got a lot of time to spend watching what I'm doing, which means that you must be perfect.
I really wanted to post a video, and I just think it's not too negative. It's just too, I don't know. And it's just like, hey, if you're watching this and you're still like commenting or like criticizing or whatever, it's like you're still a fan because you're out there watching. But yeah, it's like there are people, just because if you start getting successful or you start meeting people that they wish they could be, it's always going to be this negative stuff where I would rather cheer those people on, but they just want to see me like crash and burn, right? And it's like I just have to remind myself is like they are still watching, still paying attention, still like engaging with the content I put out there. So just leave it alone.
Yeah, I've exactly. I'm like, man, I'm not the one that stopped on my video, hit comment, typed out a paragraph long sentence, and then sent it saying how much you hate me. Like, dude, what else do you have to do? Like,
Yeah.
like, go. You could have gone and done like 20 push-ups by now in the time it caught. So.
Yep.
Either way, it's comical, but no, social media is very interesting. It sucks where we're at and what we're having to deal with from the firearms community and the attack. I mean, I've been banned off of Facebook Marketplace, right? TikTok was funny as hell. I created a TikTok account and literally, like, I think it was 54 minutes later, I was banned.
Oh, I did one video
Right.
and immediately banned. Like when it first originated and like came out, I put a video up there, and immediately taken down. And then like I see like Joe Farewell makes like a bajillion videos and he's finding the clear, and mine gets flagged and deleted and removed. I'm like, what the heck? So, and then I just stopped investing in TikTok. Period. Like I'm just not about it. But yeah.
Yeah, and so I just stopped giving a damn about that. But my train of thought got derailed of where I was going with that. But anyway, we're gonna move on. So we're all in agreement. Social media was awesome. Now it sucks.
Yep. Period.
For the 2A community. But with that being said, now you said something when your intro that you do PRS, which is a really new experience for you. So can you explain from a person that didn't really shoot competition to then getting into 3-gun to then getting into PRS, explain the mental shifts that have to take place between those games?
Yeah, and I'm still learning that. So for 3-gun, and I'm still not there. I don't think anyone will ever be the best they could, but 3-gun, you're having to master the...
Nils.
Yeah. Ugh. Nils is not human.
That's my boy. I gotta represent my boy.
No, he's a beast. He is so impressive to watch him shoot. There are people that have mastered these platforms, right? But going to like 3-gun, and I find the movement and the aerial targets and just all of the challenges so fun. And I love 3-gun. Still do, always will. Even if I shit the bed on a stage or two or just get beaten up by the guns, man, like I love 3-gun. And so everything in 3-gun is about speed. We all know, and I think, John, you and I both kind of proven ourselves in the pistol world is like, yes, we're terrible pistol shooters, but not as terrible. 2 on Brown, guys.
Hey,
2 on Brown.
I'm not terrible anymore.
That's what I'm saying is like we've all improved, but our worst was like pistol. And in 3-gun it's like 2 on Brown, 1 in the A zone. Shotgun's just fun. It's really easy to I think it is. I think it's easy to shoot a shotgun because you're just spraying BBs all over the place. Like if you suck with a shotgun, like you really have to try. So something that I've always though struggled with is rifle, especially when I was shooting like tac ops. Kudos to the guys that can shoot tac ops and shoot off of their magazine. Okay, shoot with no bag, no bipod, no funness. Like it is so freaking hard to shoot tac ops in rifle. It's just incredible. So last fall and like this spring, I started shooting in the carry optics division and then kind of dove into open. And so this fall, I'm shooting 3 more open 3-gun matches. One's coming up here with Zoo City. And so I wanted to get better with a rifle. I started with a bipod bag, but I'm learning that wind still matters, especially when these 3-gun match directors are pushing you out to 600 plus yards in competition, which is insane for a 223 bullet, but cool. So I told myself last year that the only way to get better, similar with dry fire and live fire, is to go practice what you suck at. And so enter Precision Rifle Series. So I got into PRS to try to up that game, and the mental shift is incredible when it comes to time and points. Okay, so what I mean by that, when you shoot a stage in PRS, maybe it's a 10-round stage, you only have 10 rounds. So you send a bullet and you pull the trigger. You don't breathe correctly. Whatever it looks like and you miss that target, you can't make it up with a follow-up shot. And in 3-gun, Why are we like this? We send 7 more to hit it, right? Accuracy by volume. And I see you laughing. We've all done it. So for me, it's like when I was at the very first match, it was like, okay, I plan to, sort of sounds bad, but I planned to time out on some of these stages that had a ton of movement, because why am I speeding up to hit 10 and maybe, or not hit, but shoot 10 rounds and maybe shoot, 4 points? Or if I focused on 4 really good fundamental shots and got those 4 points and was stable and all of that, it's a better learning experience. And so even at this last match, and it's not a negative thing, but at this last match, it was like you had to be off these ladder rungs on the ground or standing with a rear tripod as your support. And I'm like, dude, I don't practice rear tripod. I've tried it like 2 different matches. I hate it. I used a plump pillow I've never used before to go prone off a rung with a front bag. It was like a cluster, John, and it's so much gear. But for me, I'm like, if I can get to 2 positions and timeout, that would make me happier than trying to force 3 and be sloppy to get there. So the whole mind shift change has just come from getting your points and getting your hits on the things that matter. Because if you don't and you push it, you screw up your fundamentals. And it's funny, kind of like every other sport where it's like, you need to buy this gear, you need to buy this product, whatever, it'll make you a better shooter. Bullshit. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're shooting 6.5 Creedmoor factory ammo or you're shooting 6XC like I am. You need to have your fundamentals. You can miss just as fast with factory ammo as you do with whatever caliber. It doesn't matter if you shoot suppressed or with a muzzle brake. You can handle the recoil. You've got to have your fundamentals set up when it comes to positioning, making sure that you have your gun on target. And again, it is not pull the trigger whenever you feel like it. It's like you have to break that shot perfectly each time. So it's a complete shift, but if I can translate that into 3-gun this fall, and I think it will, it's faster to get 1 shot off and hit it than it is to make 6 shots, and accuracy by volume, I think my times will improve greatly on the rifle. That's a long-winded answer, but I'm really passionate about this learning experience I've had.
Well, because like you said, I think the difference is that in 3-gun we're going for fastest time possible, and in PRS it's you have 5 minutes to engage 15 targets.
90 seconds. 90 seconds was the evil for the last 2 matches, but yeah, there's no 5 minutes. Okay. There's 2 minutes max.
But it doesn't matter if you shoot and hit all 10 targets in 20 seconds. Yep. That's great. You are going to have the exact same score as the guy that took all 90 seconds to shoot the same number of points. Yep. So the time doesn't. I think from my understanding though, they use time as a tiebreaker, yes. Right? So
real quick too, a good point is that they had a skill stage. It's an 8-round stage off of their PRS barricade, so it's a standard type format. And the range was only 400 yards or something like that on the target. Yes, there is a time component to one of the stages, typically as a tiebreaker. And what's funny is I have the video. I'll post it later. I went so slow to get each position and was breathing slow, and I didn't feel good about pulling the trigger until specific moments, and I cleaned the stage. It took me probably 80 seconds, maybe 70, because you still hear the timer beep later when I'm done. I was just focusing on, I want every freaking point, because like you said, it doesn't matter if I shoot in 20 seconds or take all 90, I got the points. That's what mattered to me at that match.
Well, and that's what matters at that match, is to get the points.
Well, unless you are one of the pros and the high-level shooters, then you want to get that faster time, because, that matters.
Right, but like you said, you can also miss very, very quickly and just completely trash the stage.
Yeah.
Which can hurt you more than that. So
yeah,
I've never shot PRS. I've considered trying to do gas gun because I'm cheap, and unless someone wants to sponsor me and build me a 6.5 Creedmoor, I'll stick with my 223. But there's so many other things I want to try this year. One of the things I'm actually going to try, Julie Golub, who was on the episode 1 of Open Action here, she's been trying to convince me for the last 2 or 3 years to shoot Bianchi with her, which every time I've seen videos or pictures of Bianchi, I'm like, wow, that's a long trip for very little shooting, and those stages look boring. That's my mindset. Sure. I've never shot it. So it's hard for me to really hate something that I've never tried. I basically need to, take my own advice with all my kids that I've ever had, where you can't say you hate it unless you try it, and then once you try it,
then you
tell
can.
me if you hate it or not. So this year we are planning, Julie just got done with a shoulder repair surgery. She just shot her first match up in Wyoming this past weekend. So she's getting back in the circuit, and basically this next coming round cycle for Bianchi Cup, I'm going to go to the match with her to give it a try. But other than that, it's like I'm still trying to focus on trying to make the IPSC World Shoot team for Classic. So I've got my single stack back on my belt. I just finished with the 3-gun cycle, so I shot the Zombies in the Heartland, the multi-gun nationals. So there's just still so many games that I'm playing. And it's not that I don't want to go play the other ones, but I also have bills and a family and job, and So luckily, unlike you, Kelly, I have someone that mows the lawn, and it's Kelly. And it's not that I make her mow the lawn. That's just like the thing she likes to do, or maybe she likes to torture herself doing it sometimes.
It's a good exercise.
Unlike you.
Yeah, I hate it.
It's good. Well, yeah, except for when your lawnmower doesn't work.
Yeah, or all of the lawnmowers that you have. Don't worry, I have 3 now. They're all under the house.
What lawnmower company are you using?
I don't remember the H one. It's like it's supposed to be a really good brand. H something.
Apparently not. Hewlett and Packard? Because they make computers.
That was fast off the top of your head. I don't know. We don't need to digress. But, dude, I have tried all the mowers. I think it's just me and the amount of grass. And then it's like a full freaking acre up a hill. And I come from Florida where it's flat. So a push mower was good. It is not good on hills.
Got it. Okay, so you've got quite a big lawn then.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's really it's just all lawn. There's no trees. It's just all lawn, and it grows fast. Okay, we've digressed. Get us back.
No, we've got. But like I bought a Troy lawnmower with like the
that's what I have.
Front wheel assist.
I have the Troy with the front wheel. Yeah, so I call that semi-auto mode. And so it'll like vroom vroom a little bit, but no joke, I've had to prop the lifter of where a bag would normally go to give it enough air intake, even though I don't sit it all the way on the ground. Believe me, I've tried everything. Fresh oil, brand new mower. Can't tell you, I'm not that dumb. Like, just... You're looking at me. It's set up correctly. Okay? Sort of.
I mean,
But what you were saying, though, is like, yeah, like you have a team at home, but still, I mean, I don't think for anyone, and all of us love shooting, it's like, I don't think anyone it's possible to do everything at once. Like, I feel bad because I still want to shoot NRL 22 matches here locally where I live, because there's a lot of little matches that are within a couple hours, and even a local one. NRL 22 is great because I have the gun set up similar to PRS. I've got the same reticle on it, and it's like, I should be doing that, and every local match is me filming, shooting another match, you name it, like I'm gone. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's also another aspect that a lot of people maybe don't fully comprehend or understand, is that aspect of when we go to a match or when we go to an event, we don't get to just go and shoot the event. Like, we've got to worry about camera work, battery lives, memory cards, editing eventually and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like when I started hunting out here too. It was like, not only was I trying something that I'd never done before, but I was also going to try and film it. So I made something that was fairly difficult for someone that has never done it before, and I made it twice as difficult by deciding to try and film it too. So on top of learning how to hunt, I had to learn how to film my hunts.
Nightmare.
So same thing with us at matches. Like, everyone's got the phone handoffs and battle buddies of, hey, I'll film you if you film me, and then you've got GoPros on the head or cameras on the guns, and stuff like that. And then, you get done shooting and you're like, fuck, I forgot to put my GoPro on. Oh, God, can I reshoot the stage? I'm going to run into the RO real quick and get a reshoot.
I know. And I feel bad. I kind of feel bad. I don't feel bad. But, like, this recent match, I was telling Ryan, who's, like, my pro for the Pro and for PRS, and I was like, I know shooting's important, and, like, I'll get up to the stage, and I'll be like, yo, can you hit the button on the GoPro? And he's like, worry about your shooting. And I was like, worry about the content. That was the exact sentence out of my mouth. And I was like, listen, like, we got off, and I was like, Ryan, I know this sounds weird. I'm not stressed about the shooting. It sounds terrible, because I should be. And I'm not stressed about it because I know my levels. But it's like, I'm more worried about content because I'm giving back to all of the people that have helped me in PRS, got me the gear to run. Like, I'm borrowing a gun, borrowing all this stuff that I want to get the content. And that's what I wrote a whole article about. And so I have a camera, I have a GoPro. I got this sounds bad, my second cell phone now for work. And that's a like default video one because I get other people's stuff too, and then have my camera for people to take photos. So, and I also just got a trigger cam. Have you seen those?
No.
They're so freaking cool. Trigger cam, they're stupid expensive, but they literally attach to your scope. So it's stuff that you've probably seen on Instagram, but you attach to your scope, and now you'll literally be able to see the hits and the target, the reticle, everything through that trigger cam.
Okay. So it's kind of like the Tacticam.
I don't know what the Tacticam is. It's not a shot cam. It's literally through your reticle.
Yeah. So the Tacticam has it's like a tube. Like,
but it doesn't attach to the outside, if that's what you're thinking.
So maybe that's the difference, because the Tacticam, it's got a piece that goes around your eyepiece, and then a prism mirror system. So the camera is actually facing back towards you, but it goes through the mirror system and it looks through your reticle, while you can also look through your scope at the same time.
That's cool. So I didn't know that. So I'm gonna try this.
So the footage is on the camera, but it's still. I mean, depending on how expensive you think expensive is, but I mean, for a camera system, I think that to get that scope system is like $750.
Yeah,
or something
trigger
like that for the camera.
600. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, GoPros are 500 plus typically, but we're in the weeds. But there is a lot of content. That's what I'm passionate about, and I'm writing about it. And I think my value to the 2A community too is, because I don't have the time to RO as much, is now getting people's photos, getting people's videos, writing about what's kind of going on in my head. And that's just been really fun, because a lot of people are reading articles now, which is like old school kind of, but that's where there's no suppression either.
Yeah, I'm not reading articles. I'm watching YouTube on the toilet. But...
Thanks. So if I
I'm not the only guy that does that. Like,
if I send you a video,
like if my phone dies, then I need something to read. But then I'm not looking on my phone. I'm looking at the free magazines or whatever the NRA sends, American Rifleman or whatever. And some of those articles, I'm like, wow, that was very boring. I didn't know that the degree angle of a throw lever from a bolt action gun was changed because of this individual person. Like, some people find that stuff interesting. I just don't.
I did just video a short 60-degree bolt handle that was actually pretty beneficial, but because I've been running bolts now all year, this makes sense.
Yeah, like if my world depended on it, then I would obviously care a lot more about the gear.
Do you have a 45-degree safety?
Yes.
Yeah, same thing. It's faster, John. Yeah.
I would tell people about it, but at the same time, I ran 90s for so long that I'm not losing matches because I had to throw my safety another 45 degrees.
You're losing matches because you forgot to take the gun off of safe. I've done that.
I haven't lost any. Well, I've lost every match I've shot pretty much, but I can't necessarily say. I can't say I've ever lost like first place because of.
Have you ever safetied
silly
yourself?
Mistake like that? Oh, totally.
Yeah, me too.
The times where it happens though is times where they change something about my norm. So, and for example, is if you are shooting a stage, but the requirement is that you have to start with it on your offside.
Yeah. And
the entire stage has to be shot left-handed. Like, I'm not used to flipping the safety off with my left hand on a regular basis. So at or it was PCC Nationals or something like that one year, maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
I remember that.
There was a stage like that where you shot like a string right-handed, and then you had to switch it, and you had to shoot the entire string left-handed. And that was where I brought the gun up, pulled the trigger, and I was like, oh, yeah, safety. Like, I didn't program that in my walkthrough because I don't take the safety off with my left hand ever. So.
Right.
And see, right there, it didn't matter if it was a 45 or 90 degree safety. I went 0 degrees before I tried to pull the trigger. So, is what it is. But now, another thing that you've been getting into recently, like a fiend, kind of like me, is suppressors. So let's talk about that, because I'm becoming more and more of a fan of suppressors every time I use them. Every time I can't or I don't use them, it's not that it's a miserable experience on the range, but it's just not as pleasurable or enjoyable as it could be. And now that I own one, I can understand how beneficial they are and how stupid it is that we have to wait so freaking long for the government to say, yes, you are allowed to have it. right? So you've recently gotten into the world of suppressors, and you own how many suppressors do you have now?
I was trying to think about that. I think I'm at 9 that are out of prison, and I know I have 1 in jail, and then I have 1 semi-ordered. Yeah. And December of 2022, I'll just say this, I had 0. So what does that say about me?
Well, I mean, I was the same. I went from so I had a suppressor that I won from Surefire World Multi-Gun Match, I think it's 9 years ago now.
Oh, nice.
And I just got it like a year and a half, 2 years ago, just because like I didn't want to take possession of it as an individual. I wanted to set up a trust. But 9 years ago, if you wanted to set up a trust, there wasn't Silencer Shop or Silencer Central or whatever the hell they're called. You had to go to a lawyer. The lawyer had to draft a trust up for you. You had to pay the lawyer for it, or you had to know how to do it yourself, which is dumber than your. Yeah. So I wasn't going to go that route. So it was like, well, if I want to get this suppressor that I won, I'm going to have to pay a lawyer $150 to draft a trust up. And then I'm going to have to pay $200 for the tax stamp. And then I'm going to have to go through the process. At the time, also, you had to pay for fingerprinting, which means you had to go somewhere to actually get a fingerprint card done. So the investment that was necessary for me to get this free suppressor that I had won was still going to be $600. And I'm like, well, shit, for that, I can buy another gun. So I never saw value in it. And it took me 7.5 years for me to finally get a trust set up, and then for me to front up the $200 to pay for the tax stamp to get it to start the transfer process. But two things. Once I experienced how easy the process could be, especially with the help of Silencer Shop or some of these companies that are out there that help walk you through it, that was probably one of my biggest not fears, but like it was the most intimidating aspect, was that I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know the law. I didn't understand it. Like, so how am I going to go through a process that I don't understand? Well, they literally hold your hand and walk you through the entire process, and a lot of times they do the work for you, right? So once I discovered how easy that process was, I immediately got another suppressor ordered from Surefire, and now I've got 2 more on the way. 2 of them are literally in jail right now. Just started the process for one, which is the 9mm from Sylvan Arms, and then I've got a SPS 300 from Surefire that is now 1 month into its sentence. So I've got another 7 months to go before that makes bail. But let's talk about your experience with your suppressors, and I mean, because I'm really trying to make it very obvious to people how easy it is to get them and how beneficial it is to get them. Because we just took our 3-year-old shooting for the first time a couple months ago, and while she was wearing electronic, Walker Ear Pro, so we could still talk to her and she could hear us, it was so nice to have the suppressor on the end of the gun, even though it's 22. The concussive blast wasn't there. She's not a big fan of loud noises anyways, guys that ride by on Harleys and stuff, she doesn't like that. So even without the hearing protection on, I could still have a full-on conversation with her. She wasn't going to be afraid of the sound of the gun. She definitely wasn't afraid of the recoil. And it just makes it such an enjoyable experience. And for me, I love the idea of being able to communicate with someone with maybe for 223, you still have to wear hearing protection because it's not a silencer. Right. It's not like the movies where'd the shot come from? No, it definitely came from over there. It just wasn't as loud, right? That's how it goes. But I find also the huge benefit would be if you're going to be instructing someone, it'd be a good idea to be able to talk and communicate with them, which is why Electronic Hearing Pro is so important nowadays. It's almost like a industry standard, right? Like if you're running passives, it's like, okay, FUD.
Yeah, they lift up their muff, then they get one shot, and then they put it back down. I'm like, Jesus Christ, just get electronics. Yeah.
So, which when I started shooting competition, if you wanted electronics, they were like $400. Which I get it.
Yeah.
I'll go passive for $20. But nowadays, it's really not that much to get a good set of electronic hearing muffs. But I'm talking too much.
No, you're
so
good.
Let's talk about your experience with suppressors, and I mean, let's discuss. Let's talk about how they should be readily available.
Yes. Well, we can't fix the government, and I could preach all day about the $200 tax stamp that's bullshit and the weight that's bullshit. Agreed. And so I avoided it much like you, I'm sure, but like you did the trust, I did individual, but it was something where all my friends had suppressors. I thought they were really cool. They're fun to shoot. Like, and I'll dive into all of the whys, but it was something where once you do your first one, you'll understand the difference. And so I think I've changed a lot of people's minds. One of the first things to know for sure is Silencer Central, Silencer Shop, all of these machines. So finding a SOT, so where not just an FFL, but an SOT. So for people listening, you can't just go to any FFL firearms shop. They have to be an SOT and have SOT paperwork. And that's so that way they can transfer and accept suppressors, or if they've got machine guns that are transferable, just certain things that are required. But find a good SOT. And the reason I say that is you can look those up on Silencer Shop. If you go on their website, you can find who has those machines. They take your photo, they take the fingerprints, everything's digitalized, which used to be back in the day where you had to go get actually like manually fingerprinted. It was a nightmare. So that whole process is simplified. So just finding a place where you go in, they handle all of that. I'm super blessed, and there's many of them out there, is finding a good SOT. I have Tennessee Silencer Co., which is, or Tennessee Silencer, they're just in my backyard here in Knoxville area, and they do all my paperwork for all my suppressors. They take the fingerprints. I mean, it's all digital still, and they are the best of the best. And so you want to pay for that, because here's the horror stories if you don't, and this is why people, I think, get turned away. I've heard of people going in SOTs and then they take their photo and that SOT never looks at the photo. One of my buddies had his eyes closed. That waits for 8 months. And when the ATF agent finally looks at that picture, they reject it, and you start all over from ground zero over again. So that could be now another 8 months, right? So make sure that you have a good quality human being. If it's going to be you or the SOT or what have you, check your paperwork. If you spell your name wrong, that's a problem. Put your birthday wrong, that's a problem. They are going to check that, and you're going to wait the entire time to find out you did it wrong. So, but once you find a good place or a good, way to do it, then the first paperwork, it's just about being patient. So when I signed all of my documents for my suppressors and they were in jail, I kind of forgot about them. And it truly is actually kind of a fun experience, because it has to be. If now it's like, oh my God, 2 got out of jail, it's Christmas morning, because I would do 2 or 3 at a time, and then I would just forget about them, and now I get to go pick them all up. So a couple of things is, at my Gals Day this year, John, I did a suppressed only shooting bay. So you had to shoot all the guns were suppressed, pistols, rifles. I don't think we had a shotgun one, but maybe that's next year. But we had GSL suppressors out there, and then Tennessee Silencer came with the Humvee, and they brought all their suppressors on guns. We had Sylvan Arms on my rifle. And so that bay and the 22 bay was next to it, were the 2 least intimidating bays for women and anybody getting started in shooting, not just women, but we had 14-year-olds out there. We had 70-year-olds out there, whether you're male, female, or whatever. Suppressed shooting just allows you to shoot without that intimidation of the muzzle blast, the muzzle brake, the noise. I see it all the time, especially when you're on a firing line or a range with a bunch of people. When you hear that first crack, you jump, especially if it's not something you're around every weekend. I mean, my family still, I'll shoot at the farm and they're like, jump in, and they're like, ah, and I'm like, well, put your ears in or walk away or sit down. And so that's awesome. And then having my rifle with a 30 cal suppressor on it, it's a 223, they can shoot that rifle and it feels like a 22. So it is so generous to the shooter that's newer coming on board to be able to manage the recoil, not be afraid of the gun, not be afraid of that jumpiness, and like you said, be able to talk about it. So not all of them are going to suppress sound greatly where you still want to have your hearing protection on, but it's so much more peaceful when other people are shooting and you've got, say, electronic muffs on or whatever, and you can still have a conversation. And that's the big argument too in PRS. I shoot suppressed. I will be shooting suppressed. My last can that's going to go on my PRS gun when I build my own is in prison, but I'm a fan of it for the recoil effect, but also just for the sound suppression. There's a couple guns. One was a 308 gas gun. I hated these muzzle brakes at the last range I was at, that I wouldn't even be a shooter behind that gun. It was so miserable to be around. And so it's just not fun. So yeah, respect your fellow shooters, shoot suppressed. But there's just so many good factors on running a suppressor for sure.
And it shouldn't be as difficult as it is to get it going. Like I said, it's a tube. It's a metal. Oil filter.
So you could do a Form 1.
It's an oil filter.
You could do a Form 1 and they're coming back in like 3 weeks, dude.
You know what? In Europe, you can walk in and walk out with one.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it that in countries where they say you can't have guns, but you can have suppressors, like, like the world political view is so stupid in that aspect. Now, from my understanding, the suppressors over in Europe are not built as well as the ones here in the U.S. As far as longevity goes. So from my understanding, the companies that make the suppressors over there, they're kind of meant for like, the suppressor's good for maybe 5,000-6,000 rounds, and then eventually it starts to deteriorate, breaks, whatever. So you have to go buy another one. But like, they're also like $180,
right.
$200 over there. So you take a Surefire, which the suppressors that I have, and you're talking about $1,100 to $1,200 MSRP for some of them, and then some of them are even more. But that suppressor is typically going to last like the life of the shooter, maybe even the next generation that wants to do it, as long as it's being taken care of. So,
Oh, go ahead. And I have a question for you.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the cost and investment, for the quality of the product is obviously different between the U.S. versus the Europe. But it's just so comical that over there, they go, it's just an accessory. Like, if you didn't have a gun and you just had that suppressor, congratulations. You've got a very expensive or heavy paperweight or beating baton. But, like, that's all it is. It's a metal tube.
Yeah. Do you hunt? Have you hunted with a rifle suppressed, or are you just bow hunting? I can't remember.
So I mean, I've taken my rifle hiking with a suppressor on it. I haven't actually hunted or killed anything with it yet, but when I do go out, I totally do have it on the gun.
That's been my experience.
And it's mostly because, it's the biggest thing for me with the rifle and understanding why I like having my suppressor on it is that without it, I have to double plug. So I've got to put in ears and then have over the ears, right? And occasionally, when you have to do something stupid, like in multi-gun, where they're like, okay, you must engage 12 clay targets at 50 yards offhand, but you have to shoot from under a car. You're getting in these weird positions where you can break that seal of the outer muff, and then when you crack that shot off with your muzzle under a car with the muzzle brake that sends the sound everywhere in every which direction, it reverberates right back to you. It doesn't matter that you've got a hearing plug again. You're listening to the ringing all night long while you're trying to sleep. Yeah. So,
well, and
it's like,
I went for hunting with Brian at the property for deer, and it's something where, like, he was with me and we had the suppressed gun because it was his suppressor, and so, like, having that experience is like, you're literally listening for animal movement, right? And I think even with muffs, maybe that are electronic, you can amplify that. But if you're sitting in a blind for 5 hours waiting on an animal, you do not want to sit there with hearing protection on the whole time. And then for hunting, I mean, seriously, like, I don't think I'll ever hunt not suppressed now that I have my own suppressors. Like, that's just a game changer completely. I do not want to sit there with earplugs in the whole time. Like, your ears just get fatigued waiting and waiting, and you need your hearing to hear for the animals or the squirrels that are messing.
Or the other aspect is, if you don't wear your hearing protection the entire time, yes, if you see the deer 2,000 yards out and you've got plenty of time to put your ear pro on without them catching you, that's great. When they walk out 20 yards in front of you,
you done.
You're not getting away with the movement of, let me put these on now, like, so.
100%. So it's been a game changer. I think shooting suppressed is, if you can do it, get one. If you just get one, you'll find pure joy and pleasure when you start shooting, and then you're going to want to shoot it more, especially if you just want to start with a 22 can. Those are the most affordable cans out there. Like the Dead Air mask, I think I spent $500 on it, and that include the paperwork from my SOT and then the tax stamp. Yes, tax stamps are dumb. Forget the tax stamp. You're going to pay that regardless, so just put that out of your mind. But 22 cans are so fun. So fun.
Well, yes, and I think too the thing to take away is understand that, like, most people I think of suppressors and they automatically go to the expensive guys like Surefire and Gentech and all. So they look to those websites and they see suppressors that are $8, $9, $1,000 or whatever, and that intimidates them. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of other companies, especially now, that are making suppressors that the cost is down. And you work with some of these companies like Silencer Shop and Silencer Central. A lot of them also have promos a silencer shop all the time has things going on where you either get a rebate on the can, so you get a price break on it or something like that, or they offer to pay for your tax stamp. So it's like, okay, you literally, all you have to worry about is the investment of buying the suppressor. And even then, if it's, and we're not talking about that it's only Surefire and Dead Air and all these manufacturers. So you can buy, maybe it won't be the greatest performing suppressor, but you can buy like a $500 suppressor for your 223. They offer to pay for the tax stamp, which means that you're literally only having to go $500 into it, and then whatever the transfer fee is at your FFL SOT. And that's it. So for the price of the 16th Glock that you were gonna buy, just get a suppressor in there.
You just called everybody out.
I mean, I own like 5, but you
3.
know, at what point do you start getting like, okay, yeah, cool. This you know what? Glock is the Apple of the gun world. Like, Apple's like, hey, look at this. We have an iPad. Hey, look at this. We have a bigger iPad. Hey, we just came out with a smaller iPad.
Change the color.
Hey, look, now we have an iPad that fits. Yeah, exactly, right? That's literally, it's the same thing, but all they did was change the size of it or whatever. Glock is the Apple of the firearms world. And they still sell as well as they do.
Yeah.
So.
And then if you don't know, there's a lot of aftermarket accessories when it comes to pistols to shoot pistols suppressed, and it is a blast. So like I'm working with a company now, Tactical Kinetics, but you can look at any pretty much aftermarket accessory place. I think Walther even sells their own barrels, but I bought a bunch of threaded barrels for all my pistols now because I want to take my pistol suppressor out and run it through all these guns because it is a hoot to shoot a gun, and especially for pistols 9mm and up, guys. There is like no recoil. It's almost a weird feeling when the gun dips down from the recoil because you're trying to like grip the gun so hard, and you're like, oh, I don't need to do that. I'm actually driving it further down. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've gotten to shoot a couple pistols suppressed. Yeah, it's a very different experience. And the only negative experience I ever had with that was one guy was letting me shoot his gun, and he did not clean his suppressor out like whatsoever, because like the amount of back pressure that was coming out of the gun, like I was getting splayed in the face with gas and unburnt powder and stuff like that coming. You know, it was a Glock, right? So it's got all the little gaps throughout the back plate. So I got done shooting, and I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, that was cool from a sound point, but like maybe a little warning next time, like, oh hey, by the way, you're gonna get a bunch of hot bursts of molten powder and stuff into your face. You know,
not fun.
Yeah, it was fun, but just, you know, it was like in the suck kind of fun.
Yeah, the learn the hard way and the questions to ask before you shoot the next one.
Yeah, exactly. So, now, if you had to go back and you can only buy one suppressor, knowing what you know now, what would be the suppressor that you buy as far as caliber goes?
Oh, done. It's the Rugged Alaskan 360, and that is because, and this is cheating, but it is a multiple caliber can, and it can go on rifles or pistols, and it's super, kind of like lightweight. I mean, it's just an incredible suppressor. So that, and then when people ask me that, if you could only afford one, only buy one, oh my god. And then they just released it, I think, in, what's the lightweight material? Titanium, thank you. And so they just released the same model. I forgot for a second. They just released it in titanium. So if you really want a lightweight, again, that'll not be as sound, you know, whatever suppression. But yeah, that's my favorite.
So by multiple calibers, what calibers can it cover?
Trying to remember now. I'm gonna say this wrong on here. I know it does like 223. It does 9mm.
Is this something that's like a you can pull it apart and reassemble it for what you need, or is this like just is it a 9 caliber or a 9mm caliber can that is suppressed rated for 223 and 308 and all?
Okay, we're gonna look at this. So it has a RUM. I know that about it. It's like this universal mount system, so it is modular for different guns. But let's see. It has a dual taper locking system. I'm going down here. You might just Wow. So they have a different front caps, different end caps or whatever. So 7.62, 5.56. There's a lot on here. I can't believe you put me on the spot.
Okay, but it's like it's a modular system. It's a modular system by the sounds of it. Then you basically disassemble the suppressor and then rebuild it for.
No,
whatever.
you just put the different like end cap that's gonna have the right threads to it. It's not like a modular thing where you're changing baffles or anything like that. Man, pistols and subguns up to 9mm, rifles up to 338 Lapua. There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's not something that you're like changing out or swapping anything. It's just there's different, obviously thread pitches. If you don't know that, guys, holy shit, we should probably cover a little bit of that. It's like, make sure you order the mounting system for your gun. You can't just stick a suppressor on anything. It has to match the threads, or if you're going to do like a 3-lug attachment, just make sure that, or a muzzle brake that's going to be pre-threaded for that suppressor. Make sure you look into that, because you'll be very unhappy when you have a suppressor and a gun and no mount in between.
Yeah. No, and you make a very good point, because so I would suggest people that if they wanted to buy a suppressor for a rifle, to go ahead and just buy a 30 caliber, because you can shoot 223 through a 30 caliber. But yes, you make up a good point, because typically 223 barrels tend to be half by 28 versus 308 barrels, which are like, what is it, like 5/8 by a half inch or something like that. Like, it's a different thread pattern. So if you have that suppressor and you buy a 308 suppressor and you try to put it on your 223, you're unfortunately not going to be able to do that. You have to have the adapter system. So no, you bring up a good point. I actually have entirely forgotten about that last time I talked about suppressor with someone. So,
yeah.
No, so I would, like I said, like I kind of go with the 30 caliber for the most part, but it's because I don't think many people want to shoot. I think everyone wants to shoot a handgun suppressed, but the rifle is the thing that probably needs it, because like I can shoot a pistol with one set of hearing protection just fine. I can't shoot rifle with just one set of hearing protection. Like, aside from like an open, but like even my minor 9mm gun, I just run one set of hearing protection. Now, granted, it's still loud, but my AR, I'm definitely double plugging for that.
I mean, but like the suppressor, the Alaska 360 is like my favorite. I have it on an AP5 right now with the 3-lug attachment, so you just QD off, and then I can slap it on, my home defense rifle. And again, super lightweight. It's not super long either. And then it's fun because it has that, it's literally a universal mounting system. It's pretty cool if you look at some of Rugged's like work and what they do and what they put out. I'm a big fan. I think that and Dead Air, like, I'm kind of snobbish, but those two are my favorite.
Suppressors also, I think suppressors are kind of like holsters. You're gonna have to go through like 5 or 6 different companies before you find the one that you really, really like, whatever the features are. Whether or not it's like, and suppressors are weird. Suppressors are kind of like guitars in a way. Like, some people love Fenders, other people love Gibsons. Everyone hates Ibanez. But
who's that in the suppressor world? Do we name names?
No, that was just me being. People that are guitar fans might find appreciation for that joke. But the tones of suppressors can be different. One suppressor has, even though the decibel rating might be around the same, there's a different tone that goes with materials and the volumes of the chambers and baffles and stuff. So like it's funny that a brand new shooter probably won't appreciate that, but as you shoot more and more and you get to experience a whole bunch of different products, you start to notice those little nuances and stuff like that. But
and the suppressors are the hardest part to demo. I think that's one of the biggest frustrations that I have, and I don't know if our industry can fix that or not, but there's so many opportunities at SHOT Show, at NRA Day, there's like a range day and all that, and even at like some of the demo bays, at these major matches. It's great that manufacturers are set up. You can shoot some different guns, get your hand behind a lot of them, and a lot of people have guns that, hey, you can try this out. Hey, try this out. I have rarely experienced that, like trying a suppressor, unless I go to a writer's event, which is amazing, and that's where I meet all these companies, shoot all these different suppressed guns with different calibers. That Rugged 360, again, was so cool because they set it up on like the 338 Lapua, set up on a 9, set up on like all these different calibers and different like length and size guns, and I'm like, what? And so it is cool to see that. How can we have that like experience? And so, if you have a good SOT, they have demo cans. My SOT, again, Tennessee Silencer, you can demo machine guns with their suppressors on it. You can try 22s with the suppressors. That's how they sell them, because once you shoot them, you're like, oh, I want that, right? And so I get excited about that, and that's what I try to do, is get people behind suppressed guns, because then they're like, they turn their heads, they're like, oh, I like that. I'm like, yeah, totally fun.
Yeah, and well, there's a lot of great shooting events that like the general public can go to, but that's what we need to be having more of, right? So like, I always thought it was kind of comical that SHOT Show, you have to be an industry person to attend the media day event, or you have to be a media person for it, right? Because like, I don't know. So SHOT Show for me, from the sales side, when I was working sales with Armscor and Rock Island, it's very much more about the bottom line. You could be talking to someone about a brand new product, and you could be, for me as a competitive shooter, and I see a product coming out and I'm excited about the product. So let's say the VR80, for example, right? I can talk very passionate about the VR80 and why I like it and why I think it's going to be a gun that was absolutely going to just dominate the marketplace, because it was going to hit the people that want to hunt. They can use it. People that just want to use it for self-defense, they can use it. People that want to shoot competition, they could use it. We're literally covering the majority of the needs of the firearms industry with this one platform, or with this one gun. And the guy'd be like, "That's great. So like, what's the what's the dealer pricing for it then?" And they don't necessarily care. Like, they care that they can sell it, but they also care more about, okay, well, how much money can I make off the product, right? So that's the more business mentality. But to have an event where you're able to invite the end users to come and experience the product, I think says more, which is why like NRA show, I feel like, is more beneficial for some of the companies to go and have booths for, because you're talking to the customers, you're talking to the people that are literally going to go to the stores and buy your product versus the guy that's buying your product to then mark it up and make a profit on it. There could be a little bit more passion, a little bit more excitement about building that product up to that customer. So when you have some of these public shooting events, I think that's the way to go about getting the general public more comfortable with suppressors, educating them about it. But the problem is, that means you have to have a shooting event within at least every major city in the U.S.
100%.
Right? If you really want to get the national coverage.
Which they're getting there. I mean, you've got TriggerCon, you've got Suppress Fest. There's, I forgot the other suppressor event. You have the Gathering at the Clinton House. I mean, my Gals Day draws 100 end users, and all those ladies went out and bought stuff afterwards. There's some other, like, there's GunCon, that's open to the public. I'm just trying to think. These things exist. I think a lot of people make excuses like they're busy and it's like one weekend, guys, a whole year. And it's like you pay one ticket price and you get to shoot all of this shit. Like, come on. We can't make it any easier.
Well, yeah, but then, and I'll say this is now that I live in the Midwest. When I lived in Vegas, I get it. But living in the Midwest now, you're also kind of like, look, I only got 10 days of vacation. I'm gonna go chase a deer,
Fair.
And I might need all 10 days, so I can't risk taking 4 days to go travel, shoot a whole bunch of cool stuff, then come back, and now I limited my hunting time to this.
What's that other event that I'm thinking of that's like in Florida? You know what I'm talking about? Not TriggerCon, not Suppress Fest. There's one other one. There's a lot. I will tell you. I'll just try to send you all this stuff afterward, just for your own knowledge.
Well, like I know, like Murdoch's, they've got an awesome event up in Bozeman, Montana. That this is the first year they haven't held it in a couple years, but I've gone up.
Green
to
Top
that.
does one in Virginia. I forgot what that outdoor day is, because I know Todd Jarrett. I think Shane had to go out there. There's a bunch of like shooters that were there for, like, I don't know, signing stuff or talking about guns. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like you said. It's how do you get people to actually get to experience the products is what you need to do. But the flip side too is like so there was an event by a company. I'm not even going to say their name because I don't want to give them any publicity because I think they're a weasel greasy part of a company. But some of these events where they just have the influencers show up.
Correct.
God, it just makes me want to gouge my freaking eyes out. Like, it pisses me off when people come up and the first thing is like they look at the product, they act excited about the product, they then proceed to shoot your ammo and dirty up your gun, and then have the gall to ask you for a free one. And it's like, no, no, I can send you one to try and do a review, and then you can send it right back to me because I'm going to send it to 14 other people. But like, really, just
there's a very big entitled world out there that is. It's disappointing because there's also they don't appreciate what it takes for a company like you guys to pay for that event to table there. You have 2 to 3 employees to come out there. Your ammo, that's a lot of money in ammo. Your guns, like you said, maintenance, you got to clean it. And then the frustrating point is like they're there to give you exposure because that's what you're paying for, and then they don't want exposure unless you give them a free gun later. So you go all the way out to this event where you should be doing media coverage, they should be doing videos, pictures, whatever, and then that happens. And so like even me in my work world, like I have such good relationships with companies because they know when they send me something it's gonna get done. And sometimes I buy the guns, sometimes I do send them back. I don't have the money either to get all these demo T&E guns, testing evaluation guns, and like, you know, buy them. So even like I just did a recent gun with an awesome company. He sent me his wife's gun because the demo gun was gone, and he knew all I needed was for a few days. So got the gun, I did a video that's going to come out. I did an article on it, sent it back within 5 days. It's already back to them. Like, I don't expect free shit. It's not, these guns are expensive, right? It's like, but I really want to write about them, cover them. But unfortunately, those people are kind of destroying a lot of, like, I would say, credibility of people like me that are actually doing the work and want to do it and are excited about it, you know?
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that was frustrating for a while there was the fact that you could buy followers. Yeah. And so people would come up and say, oh, you know, I've got 400,000 followers on my Instagram. And then when I would go, I'd be like, really? Because this post that you just did a week ago has only 280 likes. So where are the other 400,000 people? You know, so that could be or that got really frustrating too. Like people trying to use numbers like that. It's just like, first of all, like I don't necessarily like. It's not that I don't care about how many people you have following you. I'd rather see engagement, and then I'd also like to know that you're just a good person.
So I was gonna say this too is I live in this world. I live working with content creators. I know who does stuff, who doesn't stuff, who has burnt me, who hasn't, right? And I see all of it. I watch it all. Here's what's crazy cool, John, is I have seen this software and I look at myself and I can actually look up your like numbers and whatever, but I look at the engagement rate on some of even top competitive shooters that are influencers with huge followers, right? And I'm not kidding, like I've pulled screenshots for myself of seeing like 1% engagement rate, 2%, like under 4 is pretty bad. Where I'm at with my little baby following of under 5K is a 8% engagement rate, which is huge in terms of social media and all that. But it's not just likes, it's people stopping to comment. Because I make dumb posts that are like, watch me mess up here, watch me fall, watch me paint a rifle that looks like a clown came all over it, like whatever. It's like this engagement. That's someone on Reddit.
We're gonna have to step at NC-17 rating on this post now.
That's what it looks like. That's what someone wrote on Reddit. But I can see, you know, what people are putting out and generating, and so like that's kind of the fun stuff for me. Is like I'm similar to you. Is like I don't care and I do care, but like your numbers don't mean anything unless you are an actual influential human being, a good person. You're gonna follow through. I mean, some of them that do have the following have that, but most of them don't. So I consider micro influencers or like whatever sub micro, I don't know what you want to call them, more beneficial to some of these brands right now because they're probably professional shooters that can't get a good following. They're probably people that are out there doing the work, but they don't know how to get the content or have the videographer and editor doing all this behind the scenes magic. It's like we're doing what we can to get information out, but it's very valuable to the end user. So yeah, that's my spiel in that world.
Yep. Well, and I'll say this too. The other thing that is frustrating is when you see so much more engagement with a lady that doesn't know shit, but because she's posting in a bikini, like that seems like she's getting more engagement. But is she really getting people to engage because they want to ask more about the Rock Island Armory TAC Ultra that she's holding? Or do they just want to make some sort of lewd comment about they wish she was holding something else? You know, it's like...
There's the NC-17 rating.
Well, it's so frustrating. And I'll say this: I don't envy it at all. I can't imagine what it's like to open up your DMs to find a whole bunch of wankers, literally sending pictures of their wankers at you. You know, like I don't have that problem. Like if it happens, it's because it was one of my friends and they're dicks, literally. But you know. Sorry. Anyway, so I don't envy that, but at the same time, it God, it's just so frustrating sometimes when people are like, but look how many followers she has. I'm like, trust me, they're not looking at the gun. They don't care what gun she's holding. They just are trying to slide into her DMs and make, I mean, it's so comical too. Sometimes you just fall victim to reading some of the comments, and you're like, really? Like, that's what you were pinning your hopes and dreams on, was posting to an Instagram model, and how you think that she's going to read past all other 500,000 comments to your one that says she's beautiful. Like,
the problem is until it stops. Why is our industry not stopped in sending these people their guns and probably paying for that content too? That's the thing, is I know checks have been written to these people to make their Instagram reel, their picture, whatever, with their gun, their product, XYZ. They could have probably bought tenfold worth of micro influencers or actual shooters, or people who are going to put that gun through the paces and give them feedback or what have you. So it's super frustrating. Or give it to a dude that knows what he's talking about. Like, forget the women with the clothes off, guys. Like, move on. I know, like, it might not be as sexy and cool or get as many views, but man, it's frustrating to see that budget go to waste.
Or just require the dude to wear a Speedo when he's posting pictures. Like, why can't we
How
just
much would
reverse
it cost?
this?
Much would it cost for a brand to pay you to wear a Speedo with their product?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Me? Oh, it'd be a lot. It would be a lot.
Anybody else get a mental image of John in a Speedo?
It's one thing for everyone to assume. It's another thing to prove them all right. That's all I'm gonna say. But no, because there was it doesn't seem to have gained as much traction anymore, or it's not as popular anymore. But there was an Instagram page that came out. It was called Gunny Bears, and so you had the gun bunnies, right? And then this page made a page called Gunny Bears, and he basically would share content. Do you remember a few years ago there was a couple guys, I think, but there was one very prominent guy where he would basically reenact gun bunny photos, but he would do it. So like he would, if they were in like a Daisy Dukes, he'd put Daisy Dukes on and be laying topless on a bed with like mustache. He's just a skinny dude, but he would recreate all these gun bunny photos wearing skimpy outfits and holding guns and stuff, and it was just absolutely fantastic.
What happened to him?
And so that I like I said, I just don't think they're as it's not as funny or popular anymore. But like that Instagram page, like I said, I think
too real.
Was
it too real? It was too close to home. It was too accurate.
It's either that or maybe he just got bored. Like you can only
That's
make
true.
fun of so many gun bunnies before you just start doing the same thing over and over. But I was featured on that page several times, not wearing a Speedo, but just like at one point there was a picture that someone, or a screen grab maybe, that he grabbed of me, where like I'm at a match and like I've ran into a position a little too hard, so I'm trying not to lose my balance, and in the process I'm kind of like my butt's kind of sticking out, and I'm wearing my loud pants, so the screenshot is of that, and like he made some comment about like, look at that butt or something like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I don't know. It's a funny page. If you guys want to go check it out, that's on Instagram. Like I said, Gunny Bears or something like that. Gunny Bears of Instagram or whatever. But yeah, and it was just comical because it was totally making fun of.
Only a guy can make fun of the gun bunnies. Is the other unfortunate part of it.
But see, the flip side is that girls could totally have funny content if they wanted to create it about the tactards, as I call them. Like the guys that they're just completely, like, don't get me wrong, I have kit. Sure. I've done videos of me wearing kit doing things, but at no point do I like act like I'm doing military like most of the time when I'm wearing my kit, it's just because I want to be carrying around the extra weight and running around for the physical aspect of it. I'm trying to increase cardio or whatever, and then just incorporating shooting into it.
Yep.
But there, and don't get me wrong, there's legit guys that you should probably be watching and listening and paying attention to what they have to say, and there's other guys where you're just like, watch for the entertainment value because
go to an AK match and watch any of that. It's actually really fun people watching experience. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, AK matches are I'll say this though, but like the thing that I find about the AK matches is that the majority of the time the people are passionate about the platform, but they are complete and utter goofballs, and they openly accept and embrace it when they're actually shooting the match. Like they're not really competitors as far as like the competitors aspect go. They're there to just run the platform and have fun in their kit and gear, and you know, some guys show up dressed up like full-on Russian soldiers, some guys dress up like the hitmen in tracksuits.
I've seen it all, and I love it.
I
love it. I think it's the most fun. Yeah, like I said, they're there to run what they got their gear, they're out, and you know what, kudos to them for getting out there. I think that's my favorite experience, is that I wish there were more AK matches, because they are the most like just genuine raw fun. Like, even though like us competitors, we're out there in our jerseys doing our thing, whatever, but like it is so much fun to see the different platforms that do show up, because it's stuff I never even know like that it exists. Like the AK world is just so foreign to me. It's really fun to watch,
and it's been interesting to watch how much it's grown, because like for those that have followed my career from the beginning will know that the first multi-gun nationals I ever shot was actually with Rifle Dynamics AK that they built for me in 223. So yeah, a lot of the gear that we were running was stuff that was out. It was top of the line at the time, but now it's not. There's been other advancements on that platform that have come out, but the AK is still a fantastic platform. Anyone that thinks that it's a subpar platform or inferior platform doesn't understand what they're dealing with. Like, I've got guns set up and ready to rock and roll if I need to, right? And some of them are AKs and some of them are ARs, and it's just really going to be dependent upon where I'm in the house when things decide to pop off, which one I'm grabbing. But at no point am I like thinking, oh, is my AK gonna work? Like, yeah, it's gonna work. You can shoot that thing with the top cover off and half of the parts blown out, and it'll still probably freaking run, right? Like, it's true. An AK. Like, and the craziest thing for those that have never done this, go on YouTube and search up slow motion AK. I have never, in my wildest dreams when I was coming in, or learning about AKs and stuff, never did it cross my mind what a gun goes through in the process of firing a bullet. And when you watch a slow motion video of an AK shooting, that thing like twists and waves, like the receiver and everything is shaking and wobbling as you shoot. So you watch that and you're like, wow, that's the most reliable rifle ever built, is one that looks like Jello in slow motion. But, you know, that's probably why it becomes such a reliable gun, is because the tolerances are loose, so loose, but the engineering was so fantastic that it runs because it's got that much play in it, and it can still function with it wiggling that much, versus other places where it's like you need to have the tightest tolerances possible, but as soon as a speck of dust gets in
toast,
there, then
and you have to only run one kind of ammo, period, or else it won't feed.
Yeah, it doesn't like these primers. Like,
yeah, it's like,
when did my gun become a 3-year-old toddler?
I've seen people wash their AKs with Dawn dish soap and then just oil it down and back on the range. I'm like, what? It's good to go.
I always joke, you know, my Rock Islands, the pistols that I run are all really, really worn in. So like you can literally like shake the gun and hear the frame to slide fit and all that kind of stuff rattle around and whatnot. And when people ask me like, well, how often do you clean your guns? I'm like, I don't. Because then I lose all the tolerances that I've built up. All the carbon buildup just makes that gun tighter and more accurate. So when I clean it, I actually make it less accurate because I scrub all the.
I get that's a juju thing too in PRS, like the cleaning, the re-zeroing, the checking the zero. I'll just say that world. I don't want to laugh at it because I get it's real, but it is like, what? Like, come on, guys! I just want to shoot.
Yeah, and me too. Like I'm still lazy when it comes to cleaning my guns. So my take on cleaning my guns. Now, granted, I was also told this. A good friend before he passed away, Mike Voigt. Rest in peace, Mike. We miss you still. I remember I was talking about how I had to go home to clean my gun after we were shooting a local match, and he was like, "Why?" Like, well, because, you know. He's like, "Dude, if you pay as much as you do for a gun and you have to clean it for it to run, you should go get your money back. Like, you know, throw more oil on that bitch and let her eat. Like, that's it. That's what you need to do, right?" And so my mentality now is if my toothbrush can't reach it, it's not important enough to clean.
I don't know that that's correct, but sure.
So I pull my guns apart. I scrub what I can with toothbrushes or a gun brush or something like that with cleaning agent on it, and then dry it off with a towel, oil it up, and then put it back together.
Boy.
That's well, I mean, it's because I'll say this: like I was right before I was getting ready to shoot limited nationals, and I had my rear sight break on my gun, and I didn't have an extra, so I had to ship it off to Pahrump to have it taken care of. And I told my gunsmith, I was like, look, I just need a rear sight. Okay, so just put a rear sight on, turn the gun around, and send it back to me. When he sent it back to me, he had deep cleaned with like a sonic cleaner my gun. And I had like maybe 4 or 5 days before I had to leave for the match, and I had to go through about 1,500 rounds to get it functioning again.
Dirty it up.
Because like it was so clean that parts where oil had worked its way down to some of these parts, deep down into the gun, were now gone. And it was like, no, I didn't want you to clean. I just needed a new sight, man. The gun was working fine, So don't ruin my juju like that.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah, and Jerry, there was a video, I think it was on Hot Shots when that show was out. Jerry Mitchellek made a comment about how he was like, I never fully clean my guns. I always leave a little bit of dirt in them because I want the gun to crave more. Like, talking to it like it's a living thing. Like,
they are living things. I will say that. I have an attachment to my firearms, and they have to be treated as such. And even like when I teach, it's like, if you baby my gun, you're gonna get slapped yourself. Like, you better not baby it. You better not like slowly let that side gun, like, let that thing go.
Yeah, well, you got to think of it like this, okay? If you go and like take a shower and get your hair done, and you're wearing a nice, beautiful, elegant dress or a fancy all-white tuxedo, how much are you enjoying life for the rest of the evening? Not very much, because you were just like on edge about every little spill, splash, drink, right? Versus the dude that shows up in like hoodies and a jeans, and he drops ketchup and mustard on his pants. He's just like, I'm just gonna rub it off, right? It's the same thing with guns, and it's like, I don't want my gun to be nice, clean, prim and proper, and afraid of doing something wrong. I want it to be freaking. It's okay if it rolls
100%.
around.
All of mine are not gun safes or gun queens, and that's something that I have to teach women too. Is just like being aggressive on the guns. Like, you cause more malfunctions when you try to baby it, or when you try to work the slide forward, or what have you. And like, I mean, some of these events when I bring my guns out and they're like babying it, and like setting it gingerly down, I'm like, do you realize I throw that bitch like 100 yards into a dump barrel? Not really, obviously, but it's like they are launched, they are tossed, they're shot and raid. Like, I'm so sorry to anyone who Cerakotes my guns, Creekside Custom, or like any custom work. It's like, it's gonna get banged up and bruised. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's comical to see that too. It's like, people are like, you do understand the purpose of the job of a gun is to contain an explosion that is going off in your hand, and you're worried that you're lowering the slide onto the bullet is what's gonna hurt.
No.
Like,
no.
No, that thing is meant to take a beating. So, all right, well, we're coming up on like an hour and a half for this podcast, which is pretty typical. But I like to kind of wrap these things up with some quick fire questions for you to answer, and then we'll give you a moment at the end to thank whoever you need to thank, and your final thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, we talked a little bit about this, which is going to be a great topic for you to answer. Is, would you rather use a push mower for 1,000 square feet or a riding mower for 10,000 square feet?
Still a riding mower. Still.
Okay. Would you rather have good eyesight and bad teeth, or good teeth but bad eyesight?
I'm sorry, but I like my good teeth. I've never had bad eyesight, so I don't know.
I've got bad eyesight and bad teeth.
No,
so I'm screwed both ways.
I like that.
Yeah, my dentist does a great job. Okay, Halloween or Christmas?
Halloween. I think Halloween's like the most fun holiday out there. Christmas sucks. There's always family drama. It's too stressful. You always have to go home and do the things. And like Halloween, you can get drunk with your friends with masks on. Like, come on.
Wow, that was a very eyes wide shut answer. Okay. Would you rather go bird hunting or deer hunting?
I've done both.
Really?
And I grew up bird hunting, and it's just not as cool. I think that, well, I know the adrenaline dump of taking a deer, you get more meat, better meat, tastes way better. But like, it's a big freaking animal in my opinion. Two birds, like you got to kill like 5 just to get like one little meal, right? But like that deer, that's a big deal. I don't take that lightly. Yeah.
Okay, so yours is an overall, not just about the experience, but rather the harvesting.
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean
meat
it's a
and stuff
huge
like
deal. That'll feed me for a year usually. It just, yeah, bird hunting. I feel bad
that. One deer?
for me.
One deer will last you a year? Jesus Christ! Now I'm
No,
a
I
fat
just
ass then. One deer lasts me.
I'm not
if I'm
home.
like if
I don't live
the
here.
first-
I don't live here. So think about how many days I'm home for one animal.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, like when I took my first deer, I think I was through him pretty
How many
much
pounds?
3 months in.
The whole thing.
I think I probably got about 80 pounds of meat.
80 pounds if I'm home 80 days and I'm not home 80 days, we're good.
See, maybe that's the problem because like I'm like, yeah, I can eat 3 pounds
I
in one
can't do
sitting.
that.
Oh man, I'll dominate half a backstrap by
Okay,
myself.
good.
I don't need any help.
Now
with
I'm
that.
hungry.
Like, so, all right. Would you rather go camping or glamping?
Camping. No, I absolutely hate glamping. I think it's ridiculous. People know this about me, but like when you go in the woods with me, it is primitive. You know, you gotta figure it out. Hiking, you're gonna draw water from whatever. Like, we're not going on a glamping experience. That you could do that at home. Like, I want no cell phone service. I don't want to be in contact with the world. I want to check out. My zen.
Very good. And then, would you rather eat at a steakhouse or at a buffet?
Steakhouse. Ew. Are you eating at buffets, John? Yep.
Some of the buffets in Vegas are pretty.
Oh,
freaking
I like
legit.
good steakhouse. I had.
If you've never been to the buffet at the Bellagio,
I don't think I have.
then that's why you think.
No, I don't think I
buffets
have, but I did have my very first Wagyu experience ever was in Vegas. I know it sounds terrible that I'm this old and just had it, but it was like Wagyu tomahawks. Oh my God. And I think we all spent like $250 per person just like sharing this. Like, oh, it was amazing. It was in Vegas. It was after the very last day of SHOT Show with all the TTI crew and stuff. We had a great time. Thanks for that memory, actually. That was like my favorite memory.
Well, there you go. See? So, but yes, no, buffets are awesome. Now, if you're trying to find the $1.99 buffet, then yes, expect food poisoning. But like the Bellagio buffet, Mandalay Bay, I don't know if they still have it, but that was a really, really good one too. And there was one more. I'd have to ask Mills
Where we ate.
what it was.
Awesome.
But I mean, our favorite, I think, was Bellagio.
Yeah.
So, and see, you got to understand too, like from Nils and I's perspective, it's like if we go to the buffet, the house.
I was
is
gonna say the
lose.
value, yeah, the house is the only place.
Yeah, that's where they lose their money. A steakhouse, I'm gonna lose because like more than likely I'm gonna have to pay $40 for a meal that on my way home I was gonna stop at In-N-Out and get like
not over a
double
steakhouse.
Stuff,
You're eating at the wrong steakhouses,
hungry.
bro. I'm telling you. I had bison steak, bison fillet. I was in the Tetons. I can't remember the place. It was awesome. But I swear to God, I went to that place and this person sat down. They're like, "What are you eating?" And I was like, "A bison fillet." And they're like, "What's a bison?" I was like, "How long have you been in Yellowstone for?" Or the Tetons for? And they're like, "Oh, we've been here a week." You don't know what the freaking bisons are? The giant animals that want to ram you? Like, where do you live under? A rock? Bison.
Yeah. No, so the first time I had bison was in Bozeman for the Murdoch's event. I had a bison burger, and that was pretty to this day, the best sausage I'd ever had was at MGM Ironman. One random night, like, you know, at that match we would camp out on the range, so we had our little, you know, your little tent circle set up with all the group of people you're there shooting with, and this guy was coming around handing out sausage that he had brought with him, and it was elk, and I ate it and I was just like, oh my God, that was the absolute best piece of sausage I've ever had in my life. And that was one of the things that I kind of always held in my memory of being delicious and good. And when I was getting ready to move to the Midwest was when I was kind of like, oh, like maybe I'll get to mess around with some venison sausage and deer sausage and stuff. Like, I wonder if I could get as good as that elk one was. But see, the flip side of the argument was like, you see a deer and you're like, that'll feed me for a year. I see, if I could ever see an elk or get one, I'd be like, okay, that will feed me for a year.
For me. Yeah.
But for you, well, yes. But for me, I'd be like, okay, the back straps are going to last me maybe like 2 months. And then the rest of it is going to become, I can go through. But now, granted, I like eating the venison. Kelly's not a huge fan of it. Kelly likes the deer jerky that I make. I just finished up like 10.5 pounds worth of venison that I turned into jerky. So I've got like 8 pound and a half or whatever it is. It comes out 2 pieces of jerky, and that all of that will be gone in the next like 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Because I give it to her family, and we go through it. Like we'll just throughout the day, me and her will collectively eat like 10 or 12 pieces of them at a time.
They're good.
Because it's so good.
Hell yeah.
So. Right on. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. And at this point, I'd like to give you the opportunity to say what you need to say, thank who you need to thank, and all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, the floor is yours.
When does this come out? Do we know? Because that's going to be a thing.
I'm going to try and get it out as soon as possible.
Well, then I won't talk about what's coming. I won't talk about what's coming. But Hunter's HD Gold...
Let's give it. It'll probably be about a week.
Well, then
or
maybe-ish. We'll just say shout out to Hunter's HD Gold, dude. They obviously keep John and I protected throughout the whole year. It's been awesome working with them. Just know that when this podcast comes out or somewhere around there, we've got an all new something from them coming. I'm really excited. But I know I've been blessed this year. Obviously, writing, I get to work with so many companies and even get to work with John. Y'all don't know that behind the scenes. It is awesome working with content creators like John. So I'm just super blessed to get to do what I get to do. I gotta say thank you to Super Val Ammunition too. Just being able to shoot for them and work with them this whole year has just been incredible. Obviously the competition side of stuff, but I did sign with Nighthawk this year, and it's been a blessing to run those guns. Run Gun, Real Avid, Creekside Custom Lasering. I mentioned them, but like they do all my custom work, and then I beat up all the guns and the beautiful artwork that they do. So sorry and thank you, Steve. I got to work with Lock Grips as well this year, and that's just been super fun. So I got to say all of those just custom jobs, custom guns, just being able to get to do what I do is a blessing. And John, thanks for having me on. Thanks for finally doing this. This was a blast. And then you guys can go flip over to Reticle Up Podcast, listen to the interview of John and his life with his fancy pants shooting and all the stuff he's working on, especially with the holsters. Congrats on all that too.
Yeah, that's been fun to try and figure out. I'm still learning, but we'll go from there. It's been cool that Ben Starker's Pro Shop just started carrying some of my holsters. Red Feather Outfitters is another like pro shop that started carrying the holsters. And once I did some business with them, and we were just kind of chatting, was where I realized that they're associated with the range that I'm going to be at for Iron Sight Nationals. So when I go there to visit, I'm actually just going to stop in the pro shop, say hi, and introduce myself as that I'm the guy that sold you guys the holsters. Hope they're going well. So where can people find information about you or get in contact with you or follow you? Make sure let's hit up your Instagram, Twitter, or X. I'm sorry, not Twitter, X account. Facebook,
so at 3Gun Kenzie, that's kind of what I go by now, is on Facebook, on Instagram, and then 3gunkenzie.com. That website also has some of my articles, my portfolios, if you want to read any more of the print stuff that I do. And then look forward to Gals Day 2024 for sure. Reticle Up, so just at Reticle Up, that's where you can find the podcast on Instagram and Facebook, reticleup.com, the YouTube channel, Reticle Up Podcast. So I'm pretty branded. Those two are what I manage. But I'm excited for things to come. I'll just leave it at that because there's a lot of stuff in the works, and I'm just excited for life right now. So again, thank you for letting me come on and talk all things guns and suppressors with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming on. I thank you for having me on your podcast. Now you got to come on mine, so that was a lot of fun. And thank you for everything that you're doing as far as helping educate the masses with proper education about firearms and terminologies and all that kind of stuff. Not letting people load their clips into their guns and all that kind of stuff. Like I just appreciate having someone that is as involved with the firearms world, also out there educating people and not just asking for free shit all the time and then just never making any mention about it. Like, oh cool, look, I got a new gun.
You're welcome.
Anyway,
thank you.
So Well, with that being said, again, that was another episode of Open Action Podcast with me, John McClain, brought to you by Armscor Precision. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening, and make sure you stay tuned because I've got a ton of other guests lined up in the pipeline, and super excited to get those episodes out. And with that being said, we'll catch you on the next one.